Again, thank you for joining us this Saturday morning for Anchor of Hope and spending your time with us. We really hope today will be another valuable time expanding not only our psychological knowledge on today's topic, but also to experience hope and healing that comes from learning about Jesus. Today is Anchor of Hope today is the topic of suicide. September is Suicide Awareness Month, and today in particular is World Suicide Awareness Day. So it's definitely an important topic. If you've missed our previous sessions, this year we've covered ADHD, depression, reactive attachment, trauma, and parenting. You can definitely watch all of those recordings on our YouTube channel at Oak Health Foundation, Anchor of Hope. I do want to welcome our speaker today, Dr. Esther Park, and she is our child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist who will be presenting today. And afterwards, we'll have a question and answer session with a panel of clinicians. And during the seminar, please feel free to chat with me directly at Oak Health Foundation on the Zoom chat, and you'll question anytime during the session, and I will save those questions for the end of the time, and I will present that to our panel of experts. So before I turn it over to Dr. Esther, let me open up in a word of prayer. God, thank you for today and being able to just gather today to learn more on such an important topic, as we know that there are people struggling, and that during this seminar, I pray that you would just fill Dr. Esther with your spirit as she presents, and that the words that she speaks, whatever needs to be cemented in our hearts and our minds, that your spirit would just plant that in us, and that we would remember that knowledge and statements. And thank you, Jesus, for your love for all of us, for your purpose for all of us, and bless this time that we get to share. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, Dr. Esther, take it away.
Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Esther Park, a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. It is a privilege to be here speaking about this topic today with you. A few questions that, even while I was preparing, that came to my mind was, why do people lose the will to live? How does someone become so convinced that there's no other choice than to commit suicide? And also for young people, why would someone so young, right? Teens, preteens, want to die? And as Kim mentioned, today is World Suicide Prevention Day, exactly today, also known as the National Suicide Awareness Day. I feel like September shouldn't be just a suicide awareness month. I feel we should have a suicide awareness all throughout the year, because it's happening every day. So thank you for joining today's Anchor of Hope and listening to this ever so important discussion. And if you have suffered a loss of a loved one from suicide, I'd like to give you my condolences. I'm going to show my slides at this time. And if anyone listening today through this live Zoom meeting or through the Anchor of Hope YouTube channel recording, and if you're feeling suicidal and wanting to end life, you are not alone. I sincerely hope this talk will provide you information, motivation to take the first step and seek immediate attention. And this is a slide of the lifelines and chat lines that are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Please screenshot this and call if you or someone you know does not feel safe. And if it's an emergency, imminently danger to self, call 911. Today, these are objectives of what we're going to talk about: definition, prevalence, myths, risk factors, warning signs, just a brief words for parents, and a review of the multi-layered background of causes of suicide, including the integration of the Christian understanding and resources and how you can help. It's a lot of information. You don't have to take notes. And these slides could be available for you too. And it'll also be recorded permanently on the YouTube channel. Suicide is a leading cause of death in the United States. And it is a major public health concern. When a person dies by suicide, the effects are felt by friends, family, and the community. During my teen years, I had intermittent brief moments and curiosity about suicide. I think a lot of teens do, right? What would it be like if life just ended? What's it like on the other side of death? Will the problems of life resolve if I just end it right here? And as I became a psychiatrist, I am realizing more and more how complex suicide really is. And I cannot explain it away just psychologically, philosophically, biomedically, socially, or culturally. It does not do justice to reduce our understanding to just one or two of these explanations. And at Oak Hill Foundation, we also firmly recognize the need to understand the spiritual nature of how and why suicidal thoughts and attempts occur. We have to attend to the whole person, the mind, the body, and the spirit. So a few definitions for you. Suicide is defined as death caused by a self-directed injurious behavior with the intent to die as a result of the behavior. A suicide attempt is a non-fatal, self-directed, potentially injurious behavior with intent to die as a result of the behavior. A suicide attempt might not result in injury, and sometimes it really could. Suicidal ideation, when we say that, refers to thinking about, considering, or planning suicide. According to the CDC death reports in 2020, suicide was the 12th leading cause of death overall in the US, claiming the lives of over 45,900 people. This is higher than the year before and the year before that. Suicide was the second leading cause of death. Second leading cause of death of individuals between 10 and 4 and 25 34, and the third leading cause between the ages of 15 and 24, and the fourth leading cause of death between the ages of 35 and 44. This is even higher than accidents and car accidents. There were 2 times as many suicides in the US as there were homicides. And 46% of people who die by suicide had a diagnosed mental illness, but research suggests that 90% may have experienced symptoms of a mental health condition. What are some myths about suicide? And these are really good to know and share with others. Myth number 1, people who say they're going to take their own life are just attention seeking and shouldn't be taken seriously. You know, suicidal thoughts and actions are a sign of extreme distress, an indicator that someone needs help. Talking about wanting to die by suicide is not a typical response to stress. All talk of suicide should be taken seriously and requires immediate attention. It may well be that they want attention in the sense of calling out for help, and helping them get support may save their life. Myth: talking about suicide is a bad idea, as it may give someone the idea to try it. Sure, suicide can be a taboo topic. Often people who are feeling suicidal, they don't want to worry or burden anyone with how they feel, and so they don't discuss it. But by asking someone directly about suicide, You give them permission to tell you how they feel. People who are struggling or have felt suicidal will often say what a huge relief it was to be able to talk about what they were experiencing. So evidence shows that asking someone if they're suicidal, it can protect them. Myth: people who die by suicide are selfish and they're taking the easy way out. Typically, people do not die by suicide because they do not want to live. People die by suicide because they want to end their suffering. These individuals are suffering so deeply that they feel helpless and hopeless. Individuals who experience suicidal ideations, they don't do so by choice. They are not simply just thinking of themselves selfishly, but rather they're going through a very serious mental health symptom due to their mental illness or a difficult, very difficult life situation. Myth: suicide only affects individuals with a mental health condition. Many individuals with mental illness are not affected by suicidal thoughts, and not all people who attempt or die by suicide had mental illness. Relationship problems and other significant life stressors and crises could trigger suicidal thoughts and attempts. Another myth: if a person is serious about killing themselves, then there's nothing you can do. Oh, I'm sorry. Someone who has their act together isn't at risk of suicide. This is a very common one, actually. On the outside, someone can appear to have it all: a great job, stable finances, a healthy family, active social life, a beautiful home, or being famous. We've seen that a few times. But you really don't know what's going on inside of someone. And one more myth: if a person is serious about killing themselves, there's nothing you can do. There's a misconception that a suicidal person will find a way to take his own life no matter what. This fuels a dangerous notion that it's useless to reach out to someone contemplating suicide, when in fact, nothing can be further from the truth. When people are suicidal, many times they are highly ambivalent. They're unsure about suicide. They can feel torn between the desire to live and the desire to die. It's why talking through other options at the right time is so vital. So let's move to talking about risks. Suicide does not discriminate. People of all genders, ages, ethnicities, religious backgrounds can be at risk. Suicidal behavior is complex and there is no single cause. But we can learn some of the risk factors, which are depression and other mental disorders, substance use disorders, chronic pain, a history of suicide attempts, family history of suicide, exposure to family violence, including physical or sexual abuse, and recent release from jail or prison. Now, most people with risk factors, they won't attempt suicide. Just because you have all this doesn't mean you're going to go ahead and try it. But it's difficult to tell who will act on them and who won't. So we need to also learn about warning signs that someone may be at immediate risk for attempting suicide. For example, talking about wanting to die or wanting to kill themselves. Talking about feeling empty, hopeless, having no reason to live, or about feeling trapped, feeling there are no solutions, feeling great guilt or shame, or being a burden to others, or just thinking about death often, feeling unbearable emotional and physical pain, displaying extreme mood swings, suddenly switching from very sad to very calm or very happy, unusually acting anxious or agitated, withdrawing from family and friends, saying goodbye to friends and family, giving away important possessions, putting affairs in order like making a will all of a sudden, taking great risks that could lead to death, such as driving extremely fast, using alcohol or drugs more often, and making a plan or looking for ways to kill themselves, such as searching for lethal methods online, stockpiling pills, or buying a gun. Now, should parents be concerned about teen suicide? Absolutely. Suicide is in the news and in popular entertainment now more than ever, especially in regard to teens. And we are seeing the rise of teen suicide. And we saw those statistics earlier. As a parent, you can definitely play a role in building up your child's mental illness by simply becoming aware of the risk factors and warning signs that can lead to suicide, or even just about any mental health struggles. It is much more common than all of the adults that we think for these children. I guess maybe sometimes they're really good at hiding it, right? Being aware, making yourself available, knowing how to practice having a caring conversation. This is not easy for some of us, right? And being aware that help is always available. This slide I want to share is to understand the suicide comprehensively, addressing the biological, psychological, social, and spiritual needs regarding one's mental health issues and suicidal feelings. It's a busy diagram here, but let's say there is a medical, clinical, psychiatric diagnosis. We must treat this and not just wish it will just go away one day. Thyroid disease, for example, which is a physical medical problem, it can be treated, and any mood issues that it was causing, it can improve significantly. If there's anxiety, depression, trauma memories, personality struggles, and they're persistent, causing dysfunction, we should seek help as much as we should ask a primary doctor for treatment of a complicated ear infection or chest pain. If someone is suffering from a constant toxic exposure, like an abusive relationship or unrelenting hardship, that negative environment should not be ignored. It should not just be endured. And if there are significant deficits in the basic human needs, such as starvation or unsuitable living conditions, those areas should not be neglected. See, when you see the multifaceted issues of life that can lead to depression and suicidal intentions, you can't simplify the solution to one or the other. For example, just take meds, or just go to psychotherapy, or just quit that job and terminate that relationship. And also spiritually, one mustn't ever simplify the answer to just pray it away. You need to believe in God more. Just have more faith. Get rid of your idols, right? So how can we understand this complicated problem of suicide? When someone, Christian or not, reaches the point of persistently experiencing hopelessness, worthlessness, helplessness, and frequently feeling meaningless, purposeless, useless, then suicidal ideations and contemplation of ending their own life, it can occur. When someone feels constant, unrelenting pain, it can become unbearable. Each day can feel so dreadful, and to meet the basic daily needs becomes an absolute chore. The hours and days ahead become bleak and blurry, causing confusion, chaos in the mind, and the loneliness in the heart is so dark and dismal, leading to thoughts of, I don't belong here anymore. And the belief that there is someone out there who can truly understand diminishes. The body, physical body, can feel so heavy, as if you're maneuvering yourself around with heavy chains. And the paradoxical thoughts of wanting to live, but simultaneously still feeling suicidal, it can make someone feel they're going insane. When God first created mankind, none of these descriptions were there. God created man to be with God with no unmet needs, fully happy and at peace. Adam and Eve were given their identity of the image of God, and they had an awesome purpose in life to multiply and subdue the earth. But then the enemy of God, his name is Satan, deceived man to disbelieve God's word, causing the original sin, which led to spiritual death and the curses in life. Like fish out of the water, man cannot live and be happy separated from God. And so after that incident in Genesis 3 of the fall of man, we now live in a world that cannot escape problems and the curses in all the areas of our human life. When you go through a crisis, don't you ever feel this ain't right? There's this much tension along with all the negative emotions that plague us from time to time. That's why we now live in a spiritual state that is inescapably prone to all kinds of awful conditions and situations like horrible medical diseases, and for others, disasters and tragedies that ruin lives and destroy them. For others, emotional or mental struggles that can lead to reduced motivation to continue living. These are examples of dark suffering, and ultimately they resulted from the spiritual root problem of being apart from God. And not only that, the suffering on earth also is explained by Satan's power in our world around us and within our own lives. I am very aware of how Satan is not talked about often at all. So I want to expose him today. Satan hates God, and therefore he would hate God's most precious children, us. And I can imagine this enemy, Satan, has two goals. Number one is to prevent people meeting God again and being saved from sin, to blind people to live life on earth and then to die without knowing Christ or realize their true identity of being restored in the image of God. The second goal is to prevent understanding and enjoyment of salvation within the believers, those who are saved, accepted Jesus, and they're Christians now. His aim is for the children of God to continue living in misery with a dampened sense of happiness, so that others will not be attracted to the light of Christ within them. This Satan can use any curse in life, any problem, to block and cast a shadow on God's message of love and grace for us. Satan would love to kill someone off before the chance to meet Jesus and be saved eternally. And I think it is strategic of him to fan the flame of depression and suicidal ideations in the believer. For example, he might say, hey, don't let that child of God realize the awesome blessing of being saved, and don't let that Christian take advantage of the authority they have in Christ. As a matter of fact, Satan and his demons might say, hey, let's deceive the whole world by twisting what people think about the devil's work and disguise ourselves so they don't think we even exist. Regarding hopelessness, worthlessness, helplessness that leads to suicidal ideations, I deeply believe Satan always has a role in this urgent, time-sensitive problem. John 8:44 mentions how the devil was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. For example, let's say someone is suffering from clinical depression. Satan can play a role to block the person in taking steps to get treatment. Here's another example. Let's say someone made a grave mistake that caused extreme shame and guilt, like Judas Iscariot in the Bible. Satan can influence the person's mind to think, I blew it. That was unforgivable. I should not be allowed to live. He can insert lies to think God can't accept you anymore because you're unworthy now. Another example, he can underscore someone's inner thoughts of hopelessness, making them conclude on their own, this will never get better for me. There's no way out. The future is not bright. So life's not worth living. There are so many other examples I can share, but the point is, Satan is real. His tactics are effective, and he will not stop deceiving mankind until the end of time. John 10:10, Jesus says, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. The fight against suicide, it must include the deeper comprehension of how the evil forces of darkness are working. And though the spiritual root problem, it can't be solved with human effort, like man-made religion or religiosity, there is good news. Morality and rituals cannot erase our sin. It cannot make us spiritually alive or defeat the power of the enemy. But God provided a solution. God demonstrated his love for us by Jesus dying on the cross for us while we were yet sinners. Romans 5:8. Jesus is the Christ who completed the work of the prophet, priest, king, and judge, bridging me to God, removing the sin, and destroying Satan's captivity. And he did the work by himself on the cross. And he did this all out of his unconditional love for us. He eagerly and longingly presents this gift to you and me. And once I believe and receive this gift, I become a child of God. And now God is with me. I have the right to experience all the blessings intended for me. And one day, all wrongs will become right. Everything sad will become untrue. That's the promise in Romans 8:28. And here's another blessing that God wants to nurture and grow for me, which is meaning and purpose of life. And I believe that the first and foremost blessing is that we need to know and enjoy the deep love of God, to really know and believe his unconditional love that was demonstrated in Jesus Christ, and to experience the amazing undeserved favor of God, knowing Jesus died for me because he loved me. Can you see this theme? Love, love, love. That is the meaning, to understand and know and experience this love. And another, Romans 8:38-39 says, for I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Nothing can separate you from his love. So another blessing that God wants to strengthen is the ability for us to fight and win the spiritual battle. We have to keep fighting the enemy, since he will not stop disturbing us. That's just the truth. He's going to keep doing it. And he will keep trying to reduce the will to live, the motivation to keep moving forward, and the faith in the living hope. And that's why we're reminded in Ephesians 6 that the battle is not against flesh and blood. However, we do hold to the truth also that we have the victory that's already won in Christ. How do we know that? 1 John 3:8 says, the Son of Man appeared for this purpose, to destroy the works of the devil. On that cross and resurrection, Jesus already declared it's finished. And the cosmic spiritual war has been won. With God on our side, we can successfully fight against the enemy's attempt to rid my life with my own hands. When God's Holy Spirit fills you and me, we can have wisdom and strength to know what to do one step at a time. God desires to reveal his plans for our lives while we're on earth, before we go to paradise and our home in heaven. As a matter of fact, he even desires to use this suicidal issue for his glory. Okay, so how is it all supposed to help me when I feel helplessly suicidal? Please know and believe God loves you. You are his beloved. And that will never change. In Christ, you are fully accepted, fully forgiven, fully valuable, fully loved. Your life is absolutely not worthless, useless, hopeless, and purposeless. He is with you right now. I know it might not feel like you feel it, but he's with you within the storm, within the fire. You are not alone. The darkness right now is like walking through a dark tunnel. And though it's hard to see, there is light at the end of it. You have to keep placing one foot in front of the other. God is walking with you. And please know and believe help is available. Suicide is preventable. It is not inevitable. Mental illness is treatable. And you must not battle this alone. Many mental health clinics and organizations are readily available and willing to help. So we're going to learn about some of those today. Now, family and friends are often the first to recognize the warning signs of suicide, and they can be the first, they could take that first step helping someone to find mental health treatment. So if the warning signs that we mentioned earlier apply to you or someone you know, please get help as soon as possible, especially if the behavior is new or increased recently. If a person says that they are thinking about suicide, take the person seriously. And these are 5 steps that you can do to help someone. Number 1, ask, are you thinking about killing yourself? It's not an easy question, but studies show, like we mentioned it before, that asking at-risk individuals if they're suicidal, it does not increase suicides or their thoughts. Ask directly about it, calmly, without judgment, with understanding, and take their concerns seriously. Let them know their life matters to you. That one conversation can save a life. Number 2, keep them safe. Reducing a suicidal person's access to highly lethal items or places is an important part of suicide prevention. Number 3, just be there. Listen carefully and learn what the individual is thinking and feeling. Research suggests acknowledging and talking about suicide, it will reduce rather than increase suicidal thoughts. We're just kind of honing that in again and again. Number 4, help them connect. You can save the 988 hotline, the text hotline, which is 741-741, and save that on your phones so that they're there when you need them. And you can also help them make a connection with trusted individuals. And if at-risk person will allow you, you can escort them yourself to the mental health services or to the ER if they're imminently in danger. And number 5, stay connected. Staying in touch after a crisis, after being discharged or after the crisis is over, it can make a difference. Studies have shown that the number of suicide deaths go down when someone follows up with the at-risk person. Sometimes it feels weird, like maybe it's a month later and you're wondering, hey, how are you doing with those dark thoughts that you talked about last month? But it is not weird to ask. They might even be very appreciative to talk about it again. Now, if you yourself, again, are struggling with thoughts or the intentions of suicide, I would say, please don't wait for someone to reach out, even though I'm praying for that for you. Seek mental health and tell your clinician about what you're thinking. Now, what about if I see suicidal messages on social media? Knowing how to get help when someone posts a suicidal message, that can help save a life too. Many social media sites have a process to get help for the person posting the message. And here's a website to learn more, suicidepreventionlifeline.org. And if you see messages or live streaming content that suggests someone is actively engaging in suicidal behavior, call 911 and the lifelines and they can guide you. Now, to find mental health treatment services in your area or to help someone, I will be sharing a few websites right now. SAMHSA.gov, SAMSAJ.gov, is a national database. They also have a phone line if you don't want to use the website to type in. Psychologytoday.com is also a search engine for every state of the US. You could type in a zip code or city and find a local mental health clinician or even programs. Fullyhealth.org is sponsored by Oak Health Foundation. It is a mental health clinic that provides psychotherapy services, medication management, and even spiritual care services. Fullyhealth.org. And Oak Health Center, website is oak.care, is also a great resource if you have insurance such as Anthem Blue Cross, Aetna, Optum, and even Cigna. And if you would like a copy of these slides, contact info@oakhf.org. More information on the foundation, oakhf.org. And Anchor of Hope seminars, there are various other topics that have been uploaded. You can also look up that channel, Oak Health Foundation, Anchor of Hope, and also revisit this seminar if you like. And for more information about suicide in general, suicide prevention, actionalliance.org or zerosuicide.sprc.org is also there for you. Before I close, I'm going to just end this in a word of prayer. If you can pray with me, especially for those who are struggling with deep depression, bipolar, anxiety, thoughts of suicide, pray with me as we pray for them and for ourselves at this time. Dear God, thank you so much for this seminar. I don't know if I did any justice in explaining the comprehensive nature of how to look at suicide. But right now, I just lift up all those who are struggling. God, I don't know how to help them. Even though I'm a psychiatrist, I have to ask you, God, to please equip us as mental health clinicians, as mental health facilities, as churches and leaders. Sometimes I feel like we're losing the battle. A suicide is happening already this hour, every 15 minutes. The statistics is overwhelming. So we come to you asking for your intervention. And with the pandemic and the effects of the pandemic now, many, many more are struggling with mental health problems, being diagnosed. All of the mental health clinics and clinicians are overwhelmed. The professionals are being burned out. There are not enough hospital beds. So I pray for your mercy, because so many are dying without knowing your love, knowing how much they are so valuable to you, and knowing how much you want them to have true joy, peace, and happiness. So thank you for this time and for all of these people here who care so much about the issue of mental health and the suicidal problem in our society. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. What a powerful message and information that is so much needed. So we will now go into our question and answer and group discussion. We do have a panel of experts. We have two psychologists, Dr. Alyssa Lucas and Dr. Meejan Park, and then 2 psychiatrists, Dr. Esther Park and Dr. Steve Kairas. And feel free to message me directly on the chat, and I'm happy to ask the question that you may have. I do want to also remind you that this part is also being recorded, and but you can safely chat with me, and I will ask your question for the panelists. And if you have any questions not even related to this topic, today's topic, feel free to ask those questions as well. So I will start actually with one question that came in before our seminar. And the question is, what if my friend or family member says that they are suicidal and that they are not sure if they can be left alone, but yet they don't have immediate intent to do anything to harm themselves? And what would happen if I just called the lifeline numbers?
I think there's a couple different pieces to this question. And I think the first one is that your person, your family member, your friend reached out for support. And that is huge, which makes me excited that there's this element of, you know what, I might be in pain. I might want to end the pain, but I'm reaching out to you for support, which means at some level, I don't necessarily want to die. I'm just looking for something to feel hopeful about.
What about that part of what would happen if they called one of the lifeline numbers?
Sorry about that. So this question actually made me think a lot, like what Dr. Alyssa said. There's a kind of two or a couple different way of looking at this questions, right? So which means friends or families are already hearing the patient's pain and suffering. I think that's a great positive of things. And also knowing that the patient is not immediate danger or putting it immediate actions, that's the one big consideration to take. So if the first part is already being done, being there, listening to them, if I'm using Dr. Esther's that 5 steps, right? So be there, listening to them, and this see the risk factors and how serious that is. But me calling after hearing and assessing it at all that right away, again, it could be many different factors, right? So I can call the number and get the consultation. How can I help more? I think that could be the one huge way of looking at it. Because even if you're just calling that number, doesn't mean that they will just act upon it right away and then going to them, right? So, but if you were unsure, if you wanted to get more help, I don't think it is a bad idea to get the consultation, because we know that when you call, those professionals will follow up questions how to help. So I think that could be my answer.
In different counties, for example, LA County, Inland Empire, Orange County especially, we have a mobile response team. A lot of people don't know these teams. What it is kind of like not an ambulance where they come very quickly, but they come to the home or come to the clinic or wherever you're at if you call that team, because the person is not imminently in danger, which means they have the knife in their hand or they have the bottle in their hand, but they're feeling unsafe. And you as a friend or family member, you have this hunch you shouldn't leave them alone either. And so the question now becomes, do they need to be hospitalized? Right? Does a professional need to do an examination today, right now? And so, and at the same time, you know, it's not a completely 911 number. because they're not about to actually do harm at that second. But also you're thinking, if I go to the ER, they have to wait 10 hours, I mean, that's such a long time to wait for anything. So the mobile response team, they're different names. For example, in Los Angeles County, it's PMRT, Psychiatric Mobile Response Team. And in Orange County, it's called Centralized Assessment Team. And that number is 866-830-6011. 866-830-6011. Many times I share with my parents, parents of my clients, to save it in their phone so that if they need to call them, they explain the situation and the team will come out. Again, it's not immediate because they're inundated right now. It could be a couple hours, but when they come out to the home or to wherever they are, a professional who's trained to do a suicidal assessment will interview the individual to see if they need to be escorted to the hospital, and then maybe be on an involuntary hold. And for those who don't know what that means, involuntary hold means that the authorities, like the police or a doctor at the ER, has an authority to place you in the hospital against your will. Like if you needed to do that for 72 hours, and they fill out a form called 5150. And it's because they can't trust you to keep your own life safe. And I guess the person is kind of forced to be hospitalized for 3 days until the mood is stabilized and the suicidality risk is stabilized. So what the CAT team or the PMRT team do, they sometimes place that hold immediately themselves, and do the escort. So I just wanted to give you that information, and it looks like Kim placed it in our general chat if you wanted to screenshot that or copy that yourself.
All right. The next question that we have is, what are outward signs of suicidal tendency or depression in teens or young adults? I can repeat it again.
Yes.
As you think. What are the outward signs of suicidal tendencies or depression in teens or young adults?
So I think one sign is cutting, where the teens will superficially cut themselves on their arms or their legs. That's one outward sign.
A lot of the informations are given through the Dr. Esther's the presentation today. I think before we're just checking in just the signs inwardly, outwardly, because we all seems like aware of that, what could be the sign that we can look out for. But one thing that I kind of wanted to just challenge all of us, that are we having enough relationship to notice that? Right. So before even just looking at it, outside and inside, especially at an inner work, the signs, unless you have safe relationship with your children or the family members, they can fake it too. But also, when we are not fully aware of the seriousness about the mental illness or the suicide attempt or ideations, that we may delay the needs of help as well. So if we are actively putting ourselves there, right, to listen and connect and having a relationship, the prevention, even just earlier, dictating all those signs. So, but the specific signs, if anyone were asking, can be listened one more time, that what Dr. Esther, because she listed it all of those right during the presentation. So,
and I think to add a little bit is understanding the person that you're, or the teenager, or the young adult that you're concerned about, and their tendencies, their behaviors. Are they impulsive? Are there, like Dr. Esther already said, some of these mood swings? And a huge piece of this is understanding the types of losses these individuals have experienced. Did they lose a job? Did they lose a friend? Did they lose a pet? Did they have multiple losses all at the same time? And that can be a very strong sign that that person needs support. They may not say like, oh, I'm feeling suicidal, or I need you right now. It might be more of like just this like despair that's sort of starting to build up. So I think being really cognizant and thoughtful about what our loved ones are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And another big one is this bullying that our kids are experiencing at school every single day. Some of these kids are just like, I can't do it anymore. And I get so frustrated with some of the lack of initiative that we're able to take with some of these kids that are telling their classmate, you know what, you should just probably kill yourself. Like the way, and so I think also understanding the things that these kids are experiencing every day and having parents be aware of how to support the child that's being told these things, and understanding the kids that are saying this to other classmates or other individuals. Let's really have them get some support too. And I think parents really need to be aware of what's happening at school, outside of school, on social media. Even the cyberbullying has become really, really challenging.
I had a friend who called me in distress after her child, older teen, like teen, pre-college, just attempted suicide. And at that time, she was just shaking her head and shocked, of course. But one thing she said that made me realize how so many parents could think the same way. I would never think my child would do that. I would never think my child would ever go there to feel that life is not worth living. And I think that is something to be aware of, that yes, that could happen, even for a minute or for months or years. And if someone goes through a depressive illness or anxiety disorder, or even not have a diagnosable, but they're going through these extreme emotional struggles, or they're being attacked, like bullying, those thoughts can happen. And if they start adding up to become more consecutive minutes, consecutive days, consecutive months, it can happen to anybody, any child. Like we talked about earlier, it does not discriminate. We even have seen pastors and mega church pastors take their lives. People you would say, they get shocked. Oh, he was a pastor. I would never think he would ever do that or think about that, right? Which means we think certain people will never have emotional struggle, which means we think somebody will never go through a deep darkness and feel that lonely and feel that helpless, hopeless. So this is a time that we can help parents raise awareness. Yes, it could happen to your child. It could happen to you. It could happen to anyone. And we need to be aware and be in touch. I think the humanistic connection and relationship is becoming more and more just weak, right? And with social media and technology, people are at the dinner tables, everyone's on their phone. People are at the bus stop. Long time ago, when you're at the bus stop, you just stare at each other and going, hey, how's it going? But now, you don't have to say, hey, how's it going? You just like look at your phone and you're just isolated with you on a screen. The human touch, a connection, it is worsening year after year, and technology, devices after devices.
So I will just add a little bit more to that. I think one of the slides that Dr. Esther shared today was the second lead cause of the death for the teens and the young adults, right? Is a suicide. When you really think about it, that in itself, a lot of neuroscientists and also behavior analysis research those studies prove that the suicide is due to the decision making, right? Ability, lacking of a decision making ability. So our young children in that age, their thinking process is a very inflexible, and then many negative thinking patterns, right? Because it's a limited life experience, a limited perspective taking, and then all that. So if we understand that developmentally, the why decision making can be affected in those age, then we can be there, really truly understand that my child and my family members, especially young children, can be possible in that area, so that we can be there and have a discussions, even if they have a symptoms or not, talking about it and bring it in more of a perspective, more of understanding, and Christian families can bring the true purpose and meaning of a life in God. Right? So I think leading those discussions ongoing and bring it a more of perspectives in their lives can be tremendously helpful.
There was a follow-up to that question. How does it differ in regards to withdraw? How does it differ from true withdrawal versus like a development teen phase? Like which one would it be alarming versus what teens kind of go through in general? As a parent, how would you know the difference?
I think that's a really good question, and I love that. And I think it goes back to what Dr. Esther said in her presentation of this dialogue. Let's have a dialogue about it. Let's talk about it with our teens, with our children, with our friends, with our family members. Just because we talk about it does not mean we're going to put the idea in their head. This is just such an important part of connection and being there to support each other. So really asking your teen, and really understanding and being compassionate and approachable, and having these discussions of what that withdrawal is feeling like for them.
Let me put another myth here. Okay, so in our society, a lot of parents have a belief that, oh, that's just adolescence phase. Oh, that's just puberty. Right? We say it a lot, and we also hear that a lot. But the adolescent means, medically and psychologically, is not expect that they will go through all those issues and ODD behavior, defiant behavior, withdrawal behavior. The true meaning of adolescent and puberty is changing, hormonal changes, and also brain development changes. It doesn't mean that just because they're adolescent and going through the puberty, they will have that problem. Understanding their adolescent phase and the puberty phase is a lot of changes that happening in them, which means problem solving can be changed dramatically during those years. Seeing things or understanding things dramatically change in those periods, but where and then who they are talking the most during that period is not their parents, is more of their friends, is more of their social media, right? It doesn't mean that it is the bad information, but it is often inaccurate information. So during those developmental process that they are getting their own information. So going back to the adolescent period, that do we really have the relationship with our children so that they can listen to us, they can come to us to talk about all these things. So that during those puberty and also adolescent period, they can gain more of a wisdom from the trustworthy people and parents rather than the outside information.
Another question that came up is how would you suggest starting a conversation with someone if you kind of notice that maybe they're feeling down or just physically maybe seeing that they're not themselves? And yeah, so how would you start that conversation to broach the subject without just asking straight out, are you suicidal?
Right. I mean, there are some like good ways to just start the conversation. There are some parents who are so anxious and they begin with, "Are you feeling suicidal today?" You know, and the kid's like, "No, mom," you know, and so you could begin the way you would begin any other conversation, like, "How are you today?" And then if they're a little bit resistant to go on with, you know, I noticed that you're not really being yourself. Like look a little sad, you look a little tired. Can you tell me what's going on? I'd love to know. And like the talk said earlier, if that conversation is moving along and they're like, you know, I am really sad, like the person is responding, I'm feeling really, really down. Oh, and then tell me more about it. And then if they mention, yeah, sometimes I feel like it's never gonna go away, you know, those kind of key words, then you can proceed with asking directly. And maybe you don't have to use the word suicide, right? Because that word has been tabooed a lot. You can start off with like, do you ever think about like life is not worth living anymore? Does this make you feel like it's not worth to wake up tomorrow? Or do you have some dark thoughts about dying? So these are many different ways you can approach the topic of suicide without saying the word suicide. Do you ever wonder if like you can find ways to just die, take your own life? All of that is a different way of saying, are you thinking about suicide?
I asked a couple of our parents that I am actually helping in my sessions. More than anything, before forming the questions, I ask them to do their own data analysis. So how many times a day they're asking related to the task completions. For example, did you do your work? When you gonna do? When is your exam? All the related to the schoolwork, task-oriented question. I ask them to write it down how many times they are asking those questions a day. And also, I ask them to write it down how many times a day they are asking, genuinely interested in their child's life. Right? What's happening in their lives? Who's in the classroom? Who's their teacher? What are the things, that main topic that they're concerning about? What are the interests that they have? Everyday life, because the children's during those age have a lot of information gatherings and try to understand, try to solve the problem and stress in their lives. So I'm asking them those two questions first. Parents, you have to be data analysis first, research on your own life in your family. Then see, before again asking any question, drop the questions. Any numbers are so often on the day. So instead of formulating other questions, but dropping more of a task-oriented questions, but increase on the interested in their children's life. Being interested in somebody, being interested in our children and our spouse or our family, you don't have to ask us what question to or how to start. You will be interested in, then you will ask questions relating to that. So I will start from there, have a data analysis for yourself.
I love that because it expresses to the person, again, whether it's a child, friend, family member, spouse, that I care about you as a person not I care about what you can do and how well you can perform. It's like, wow, that feels really connected rather than I'm not living up. I love that. Thanks for sharing.
Another question that came in is, what are beneficial approaches that clinicians who have lost patients to suicide cross their involvement?
I think this is a really heavy question for us as clinicians. And I actually supervised a therapist that lost a patient. And it definitely takes time, and it takes self-compassion, it takes support. We can't do this job on our own. And if we think we can, that's a challenge. So it's definitely extremely sad and hard, and it also doesn't mean we're not meant to be in this field. I think that is like sort of an initial thought of like, how did if I missed this, like I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be doing this. And you know, I think, speaking for myself, I know that all of us are here for a reason, and we're doing really great work. And you know, sometimes we're human also, and we miss signs.
Sometimes we were doing everything that we could, and we can't monitor and supervise a suicidal person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are times when we see the warning signs, we are constantly recommending this, recommending that, and feel a little helpless. So I ditto Dr. Alyssa that with a loss like that, it doesn't mean that we don't continue to work on our skills and our competency and to keep moving forward with everyone else who we're trying to help. And mental health, like, for example, our statistics of death from illness is not like oncology, right? Oncology, they know they're going to face that all the time, and they work on their own psychology and their own spirit and how to deal with that. And even though suicide is preventable, it's happening. Like we can't stop the attempts as quickly as we would like. So we are in a field where that statistics is going to happen, and it's going to happen to some of us. There are some psychiatrists who practiced many years and they didn't have one fatality. And I have to say, every single client I've ever met are not still with me. So I don't know what's going on with them either. I don't know if some of them lost their lives to suicide. So the hypervigilance needs to continue, and we should be aware of the lies of the enemy to us, like Dr. Alyssa was saying.
And also today's presentation make me to think, and I also confirm that one more time, why this topic is so hard and so hard to prevent 400%, right? Prevention is because suicide is such a complex things. We cannot pinpoint one or two or even 3 and 4 factors. It's just so complex. It does not happen for one single reason why somebody will take their life, which means you as a therapist or a psychiatrist or even clinicians doesn't mean that you can save somebody's life either. It has to be all around, multifaceted way that we needed to work together. It is not about one single clinician that can save somebody. But the family has to be part of it. Friends has to be part of it. Community has to be part of it. Church has to be part of it. Nationally has to be part of it. Globally has to be part of it. How complex it is, right? So because of that, therefore, we cannot take a one person, me as a one clinician, take all the responsibility on me. It doesn't mean that we didn't do our best. I wanted to encourage all the providers and the clinicians out there who are going through some challenges after treating the patients and a loss of the patients from the suicide, is we're still continuing this journey together, right? So this is not only applied to the family members and friends, but we also, clinicians, needed to get together, leaders needed to get together, and we needed to go and fight this spiritual battle together.
Thank you. Another question that came in was going back to the teens question. What would a parent do if you ask what's bothering them and they say nothing?
I like Dr. Michin's approach on reevaluating how am I connecting with my child, and if they don't feel safe enough to talk to me about this, what can I do as a parent to shift my presence with my kiddo?
This is a very, very tough one, right?
Mhm.
Because relationship will not gonna build and establish just because you started it to have a relationship. It has to be built in the process. But the best things that I've been actually observing through my clinical work is you don't, even if they say nothing, I have nothing to talk to you about, nothing to share, be there. You ask when they say nothing, but think about it. We learn and we are understanding about this. Communication doesn't go through only with the verbal. Nonverbal communication is a lot more and stronger than the verbal. Even if your child say nothing with the verbally, right? Verbally, your child saying nothing to talk to you about. But there's so much vibes your child is carrying when they say nothing. Tone of voice, their eye movements or eye contact or body language. Then we need to see my child is feeling something. Nothing doesn't mean that nothing. But something is holding them back not to share with you. Then noticing that and describing that. Okay, I can see that you don't want to say anything, but I can notice that you're having a hard time. Be there and try to connect non-verbally with your body presence with them. Even if the silence, sometimes our parents are such having a hard time being silent and being together. As if I am anxious that I needed to hear, right? And then if our children say nothing, some parents are pushing. Be there, present. And I mentioned that last time during our parenting seminar. Let go of your left brain, problem solving. You don't have to solve the problem. Engage, be there, be present with your right brain and access your right brain to understand and feel it. Then your child will start to say, and oftentimes our children have an ability to solve their own problems. But the reason why they don't want to say it, because you're quick to jump into give the solutions, try to fix it. But you adults and we adults, think about it. When you wanted to say your problems to somebody, are you looking for the solution? So you just want somebody to listen and be there for you. our children are saying. So pay attention to the nonverbal, the dialogue that your child is communicating.
Great point. Another question is, how would you respond if somebody is fearful or shame, like feeling shame or embarrassed of having dark thoughts, but not necessarily in danger to themselves, but taken aback by their own thoughts and like, again, fearful to even say it aloud? How would you have that conversation with somebody?
Yes, I like that question a lot. Because so many don't share that's what they're thinking until it's asked directly. And that's why the talked about, let's ask directly, let's ask, give them the room or the space to feel comfortable to share. And so if they did share how they're embarrassed or ashamed of it, I definitely first response I have is validating that that is not abnormal and nothing to be ashamed of. And that more than people realize, everyone has thought about it. Everyone at different ages of life, at different stages of life. And that the one who's sharing how courageous they are to have brought it up because they realize how valuable their life is. So the validation is something I start off with first.
Let's understand about the shame. The shame is all about me. If our patients or children and family members and friends fearful about speaking about their negative thoughts and dark thoughts, or if they are shameful about it, it is not about the word or thoughts that they're having. They are shameful about them, right? So they think something is wrong with them already. Just to begin with that. Shame in itself is a reflection of they are believing that they are defective. It's not the phrase or thought that what they are about to speak that they are shameful about. They are shameful about themselves. The shame is related to about them and their character. So we needed to, if it is a clinicians, we needed to define very well for our patients. Whether you're having your thought is not reflective of who you are. You're just having your thoughts. Separating those two things, again, if it is a believers, who you are is not based on the work, the things of what you have, including thoughts that you have. Who you are is already given to you and received when you believe that Jesus is the Christ. That identity has been received by God, that you are a child of God. That identity cannot be changed. Anything that what we can earn and achieve, including the thoughts that we have, either positive or negative. So either we have a positive and negative cannot affect who we are. It is already given to us. Make sure that that is a given, cannot be affected or taken away. But if it is more of a thought process or of a skills in communications or coping skills, then that's something that we can talk about it. What is causing them to have that? So if it is clinicians, we can help, right? Re-examining and then renewing their thoughts and then bring the perspectives of their thoughts. But if it is parents and the friends, we also needed to approach it that way. What caused them to have their thoughts? Instead of saying, that's not true, you don't have to think about it, because we are putting the same way that our friends and loved one are saying is a shame. So that we are trying to brush it off, saying that you are okay, you are okay. We're putting it also in an identity matter, rather than the thought itself and process it itself. So that could be the good way to approach.
I have one question. I don't know if it's in the list or anything, and I'm going to ask Dr. Steve to help me answer that question. Do suicidal thoughts, should they be treated with medication? We haven't talked about psychiatric treatment with medication or not? Like, is that something that we have to address with meds or not? Dr. Steve, you want to take a stab at that first?
So, I mean, definitely you want to do like a psychological assessment on the client to see if they're already on medicine. You know, if they're severely depressed, moderately depressed, then they should definitely be on an antidepressant medication. If they're already on an antidepressant medication, the dosage may need to be adjusted. So there's various medication strategies that we can do. Sometimes adding lithium is also very helpful for suicidal thoughts. So it's everybody, each individual case is unique. So definitely a psychiatric evaluation would be a very good thing to get.
Because a survey, you know, the research shows that those who have completed suicide or serious suicide attempts, 90% of those individuals were struggling with something, depression, bipolar, something inadequately treated or not even addressed at all, not even diagnosed at all. And so because mental illness is treatable, those symptoms are treatable, meaning we can get them under control where it doesn't lead to the person to have the symptom of suicidal thoughts, ideations, and intent and plan. So when someone already lands in our office saying, I just can, try to attempt, or they're struggling with the constant thoughts, we're not saying we got to always give medication because they have suicidal thoughts. When they have suicidal thoughts, we're already have a heightened sense that the severity has been reached to the point where we need to address the underlying issue of major depression or any other of those diagnosable psychiatric illnesses. Because if we don't treat it, then the repeat attempts and death by suicide risk will go up. It will go up. And that's why it is not an option to not address it. So that's how we can help save lives.
Oh, yes, I will highly agree on what Dr. Esther and Dr. Steve said. Research is very, very, very promising that it is preventable, it is treatable, right? Which means a lot of our patients and also families and friends out there not even get to the treatments. Untreated mental illness can lead higher chance and higher percentage can lead to the fatal decisions by the suicide. So I just wanted to encourage family and friends and ourselves who are struggling with this, that it is promising that if we're getting into the treatments and get help, it can get better.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. As we're nearing here, we got about 2 minutes till our seminar is over. I just want to remind you that the resources have been put in the chat. The video recording will be uploaded within a week, so you'll be able to access this whole recording on our YouTube channel again in about a week. I want to just thank Dr. Esther and all our panelists for their time and expertise and vulnerability to spend this time. Thank you for the promises that God has for us, especially in this dark topic, and that we can encourage one another and lift each other up and support each other. So thank you for attending. I do want you to be aware that our next Anchor of Hope is on October 8th on the topic of bipolar disorder. If you don't already have access to my reminders that I send out, please sign up on our website, oakhealthfoundation.org. And then this will conclude our today's session. Thank you so much for taking the time out this morning to attend to Anchor of Hope.